Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Justin Snyder, e commerce entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience. And his passion is growing and selling the highest quality whole foods on the planet. Welcome to the show, Justin.
Hi AJ, thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form, Justin. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll learn from you about superfood secrets and before. But before we get to this, let's learn and understand a bit about your background, your journey, so that people know who they are listening to.
Yeah, so when I finished high school in Australia, I decided to go backpacking around India for a couple of years, and I had an incredible time. India is very different to Australia, very different culturally, and very different food and the places and everything. And I had an incredible time. And one of the things that really blew my mind was how much of a mainstream thing the Ayurvedic foods are and the Ayurvedic medicine, and how much is just commonplace that probably a lot of people in India don't even realize they're eating Ayurvedic foods a lot of the time. Things like spirulina and turmeric and sweet basil and moringa leaf and all these kind of things that are very normal in India. No one had really heard about them in Australia. And it's kind of stuck with me for a very long time, this idea of being able to improve your health through diet and through food, which is something that I think a lot of people have come to realize now. But back then, 20 years ago, the idea was you took a pill if you wanted to improve your health. And I thought there must be so many people who could benefit from having some of these incredible superfoods in their diet. And so I started Forest Superfoods about 13 years ago. And in that time, we've brought in a lot of these superfoods that I've just mentioned from India. And then we've also grow a lot of them here in Australia, and there's some that come from Peru and basically all over the world. But it was in India where I first discovered spirulina, and we still sell spirulina now, all these years later.
Absolutely, absolutely. Justin, that's good. Great to know about your India connection. And I'm sure, the world is discovering India now in a
Yeah.
different way in terms of the food, in terms of the culture, in terms of so
Yes.
many other things beyond the way people in India was known. And it also opens doors for also people in India to learn about things outside, how
Mm.
similar it is, and what are the other things in terms of food, in terms of other things that can be taken from those places and inculcated in our life. So I want to understand, when you talk about superfoods, why do people need superfoods? What are superfoods? Means food is food, and food is
Mm.
there for the body. We need nutrition. But where does this whole concept of superfood come in?
So there was a study that was done not so recently where they looked at the nutritional value of a lot of foods today compared to in the 1950s. And one of the examples they gave in the study was an apple. And in order to get the same amount of nutrition you would have gotten from an apple in the 1950s, you'd now have to eat something like 18 apples to get that
Oh
same
my
amount of
God.
nutrition. And a lot of this comes down to soil degradation. For many years, we've been destroying the top layer of soil and putting chemicals in the soil and turning the soil over a year. And topsoil has become very degraded across the world. And of course, if you're growing things in poor quality soil, you're going to end up with poor quality foods that come out of the soil. The food can only be as good as the soil it's grown in. And so superfoods are something which have become very popular in the last 5 to 10 years because they give people a way to improve their health through food. And so a lot of these foods are very high in certain active compounds. Things like lion's mane mushroom is very high in things like arachidonids and herinaceans, which we don't find in our everyday diet. So it gives us access to these incredible active compounds that we don't usually get, but can have really great impact on all different parts of the body and the mind. And then there's things like spirulina, like we just talked about, which is super high in iron and protein and flavonoids and beta carotenes and all these other things that the human body needs. It's really essential to the human body, but is missing in a lot of our diets. And part of that is because of the nutrition, the lack of nutrients that are in most of the food we eat. But it's also the diet. We used to eat a lot of just fruit, vegetables, and and protein, and now we eat a lot of ultra processed foods, and we have a lot of high stress lifestyles, and so there's a lot of different contributing reasons as to why I think superfoods have become so popular. But I think for me personally, if the option is to take a pill which is a synthetic and could have some side effects on some part of my body, or to just eat some food and get a similar kind of outcome in terms of health outcomes, then I'm going to choose the food every time. And I think there's been a big kind of shift, particularly in the last 5 years, from a lot of people feeling disillusioned with Western medicine and synthetic pharmaceuticals and looking for other alternatives. And superfoods are a big part of that.
Absolutely, absolutely, Justin. So, in terms of superfoods, uh, I want to understand any particular reason you went into this whole superfood industry. One would have been you come to know about the benefits, you grow your some of the foods, or you can
Yeah.
get some up and eat yourself. But you have gone into this whole industry itself. Seem to be quite bullish about it.
Yeah, well, I got into this industry, at least in Australia, there was no industry when I got in 13 years ago. There was very few people doing it, and no one really knew what it was. And I kind of just saw an opportunity there to help people improve their life through food. And I think we spend our whole lives working, and I think we need to be doing something that we believe in that makes a difference to the planet and makes life better for those around us. And I saw this as an opportunity to kind of do that by providing high quality superfoods to people in Australia and around the world. And so I started 13 years ago in my spare bedroom, and it's just kind of grown from there. And we kind of rode this wave of this superfood revolution that really, started in the US and Australia, and is now, I think, becoming more and more popular all over Asia as well, in Europe and the Middle East. And I think I just like getting emails from people telling me that we've changed their lives, and I think that's special to be able to do that, because at the end of the day, it's the time is the only real resource we have. It's valuable, and I think it's really important to make sure that I spend my time doing something that has meaning, and this does that for me.
Absolutely. So, where do I get my superfood? Do I need to become a farmer, grow it myself, or do I need to buy it from everywhere? Is it good enough? How do I know it is very good? As people say that it is about, like in organic, they say this. There a lot of brands say it's organic, but actually it's not. So I want to understand the same about superfoods.
Yeah, so there's some different things that we would always recommend to people if they want to buy the highest quality superfoods. I mean, there's lots of places where you can buy superfoods for cheaper, but I think they're inferior products, and they're not necessarily safe to consume, and they're not going to give you such good outcomes. So, for example, we sell ashwagandha. We sell ashwagandha and moringa, which are very popular superfoods that are originally from India, but ours are freeze dried. And by freeze drying, so whenever you dry something, there's nutrient loss that happens during the drying process. And by freeze drying it, it's dried within half a second at negative 230 degrees Celsius. And so what that does is it freezes it and dries the food virtually instantly, which therefore stops the nutrient loss. And if you look at some studies on freeze drying, there's a number of studies which have actually shown that freeze drying is almost nutritionally equivalent to eating the food fresh. So of course, fresh is always best, but there's a lot of work and a lot of difficulty in getting things like moringa leaf and ashwagandha and mushrooms fresh because of their short shelf life. And so we freeze dry them, which is the next best thing to ensure that's a nutrient dense product. And there's other things like organic certification, which is something which does help to resolve some of this issue of people saying it's organic when it's really not, because the farms are independently checked and the sellers are independently checked, and there's an auditing system that takes place when something is certified organic to ensure that it actually is organic and free from chemicals or pesticides and all those kind of things. And the other thing as well is, most of the time when you buy health foods, and I've noticed it become very popular in India as well, but people are buying extracts, which is really when you take something like a lion's mane mushroom and you just soak it in alcohol and throw away the non-soluble parts of the mushroom, and then you sell the alcohol with a little bit of mushroom inside, or a little bit of ashwagandha inside, or whatever it is. So we prefer the whole food aspects. We don't use any alcohol or water or extraction. We just take the whole ashwagandha root, for example, and freeze dry it, crush it, and put it into capsules. So there's no extraction process. There's all the active compounds that are found in nature are still there in the finished product because it's freeze dried and because it's the whole food rather than an alcohol or water-based extraction. And it's more expensive, a lot more expensive for us to make. But the first thing when I started the business, I said to myself, I'm only going to sell products that I feel comfortable taking myself and that I would give to my own family. So we don't sell anything low quality because I wouldn't want to take that myself. So I think, why would I sell that to other people?
Right, right, Justin. So, how much of your superfood you source from elsewhere, and rest? How much do you grow in your own farms? You talk about selling as well as growing. So, how much?
Yeah,
Help us understand. And your company is Forest Superfoods, isn't it?
that's right. That's right. Yeah. Forestsuperfoods.com.au. Forestsuperfoods.com. We grow a lot of our products here. We're in a temperate environment, so things like the ashwagandha and the moringa are a bit difficult to grow here. We're trialing a few different crops of those products here to see if we can grow it in Australia. But our ashwagandha and our moringa come from certified organic farms in India, and then all of our mushrooms are grown in Australia. So we have farms here where we grow like lion's mane and chaga and cordyceps, reishi mushroom, turkey tail. All of those mushrooms we're growing in Australia, and then and selling the whole mushroom that's been freeze dried and put to capsules. And then there's quite a bit that comes from Peru as well. Things like maca root and camu, and those kind of things come from Peru. So it's like I think it's probably about 70% are Australian grown, and the rest are coming from different places overseas. But I really, obviously Australian grown is a lot more expensive than buying from overseas, but I think our customers really appreciate knowing that it's been grown away from pollution and with good quality soil and to the highest standards. And Australia really has a good reputation around the world for agriculture. And so by selling Australian grown products, it can help give people confidence that they really are buying a premium product.
Right, right, Justin. So, as a common person, how do I know, okay, this so called superfood is of high quality or low quality? And this is how, is it about the product or is it about how the product has been grown?
It's both, really, because the product that you finish with is a lot to do with how it's grown in the first place. So if you're buying something which is grown in degraded soils that are full of chemicals, well, then those chemicals are going to end up in the food, and they're going to affect how the quality of the food and even how safe it is to consume. A lot of times, there's problems like the mushrooms are a really good example because mushrooms act like sponges, so they will absorb heavy metals that are in the water or the air around them. So if you ever go foraging with somebody for mushrooms, they'll never harvest from the side of the road because the mushrooms that grow on the side of the road are absorbing all of the chemicals that are put out by the cars. So it's really important to have mushrooms which are grown in a pollution-free environment with clean, high-quality water. And so by looking for mushrooms which are Australian grown, you can be pretty sure it's something that's high quality, something which is freeze-dried as well to ensure that it's locked in a lot of those nutrients that are in there when it's fresh. And the whole food aspect's really important as well to make sure you get the full spectrum of active compounds, not just the water-soluble parts of it.
Right. As an individual, if anyone wants to grow some of these superfoods, which are the top three, say, superfoods, would you ask them to grow in their own, houses, whatever little bit of place they have got, and help us understand which one, and which is easy for them to grow.
Yeah, look, it depends a lot on your climate, but if you're in like a temperate climate like we are, you can grow a decent crop of ashwagandha over the summer. So you could plant ashwagandha in spring, start it indoors before spring, so you get a start with a seedling, and then plant it outdoors as soon as the soil warms up, and then plant it somewhere it gets good drainage, a good compost, and then by autumn you can harvest and have your own ashwagandha roots, which are incredible for stress and anxiety and lowering cortisol levels and sleep and libido and all kinds of things. Ashwagandha is an incredible herb. And then things like turmeric is super easy to grow. You can buy a little bit of organic turmeric from a supermarket or a fruit shop and put that just in some good quality soil and grow your own turmeric. We grow a lot of garlic as well, which is another incredible superfood. I'd say probably the easiest ones to grow would be the garlic, turmeric, and the ashwagandha.
Wonderful. Garlic, turmeric, and ashwagandha. Tell
Yeah.
us a bit about your business. Which is your biggest market? How are you growing your business?
So our biggest market is Australia. We've only recently started selling internationally. So about 6 months ago, we started selling internationally. And now we're doing a lot of sales to places like India and the United Arab Emirates and Philippines as well. There's a lot of countries, and I think India and Philippines are probably some of the most. But there's countries that really appreciate the Australian grown product and are willing to pay more for Australian grown. And so we're seeing a lot of our customers buying online from India and Philippines, United Arab Emirates. But our main market is still in Australia. We're very much an Australian-based business selling online, direct to consumers, and we've probably sent out about 300,000 orders or so by now. So we've done a lot of orders, and we try to go direct to the consumers. So people can order online from any country in the world, and we'll send the order out to them. But yeah, I think I think they're all growing markets, and as you would know, India's got this huge growing middle class, and places like the Philippines are the same, and China's the same, and a lot of these countries have got this big growing middle class. They've got disposable income that are looking to buy high quality products they can trust, and so we're seeing a lot of demand from those kind of markets.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm sure that there is so much to learn about these superfoods, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to learn more about it. Maybe try your products and look at superfoods. Much more important. So, how do you see this whole trend of superfoods going forward? Is it here to stay? Is it grow? Will it grow at a very fast pace, or how do you see it?
I think 10 years ago, at least in Australia, the media and the mainstream media was very much about superfoods are all hype and it's a fashion trend and it's a gimmick. And I think that kind of conversation has changed, and now it's become a staple of the landscape, and something you see in supermarkets and health food stores, and you see superfoods everywhere now. It's become very commonplace, and I see it keep growing. I think more and more people are becoming aware of how important it is what you put into your body and the impact that has on your health. And it seems very obvious, but I think we all kind of get to a stage where it kind of clicks for us and we go, oh, the food I put into my body is going to have a direct impact on my mental well-being, my physical well-being. Every aspect of my health can be impacted by the foods we eat. So I think the superfoods are going to become more and more popular as more and more people want to live their best life. And if you could do it naturally without side effects and, for not so much money, then it's, I think it's a no-brainer.
Absolutely, absolutely. There is so much to learn from you about these things, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to connect with you, learn about your company, about your products. Maybe why want to buy your product. So what's the best way for them to do so?
Well, they can go to forestsuperfoods.com.au and they can place an order online on the website. And there's also a quiz on there, so they can fill out this quiz and work out which are the best products for their individual circumstances. If they just click on the health quiz link, and yeah, I'd say if people want to get started with some of the most popular products, they would start with something like the Australian grown lion's mane, the certified organic pure ashwagandha, and the naked greens blend. It's a really good kind of combination of a greens, something for your mental health, and something for your brain activity and brain productivity. So I think those three are our most popular, and that's a good three for people to start with if they wanted to give superfoods a try and see how it works for them.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining
Thanks,
us.
AJ. Thanks for having me. Bye.